Hey everyone, and welcome to our Jeopardy game created by Abiel, Nevaeh, Ruqayyah, Bliena, and Keidra. The name of our team is Team Victory, and on the side we included our COD link as well as our leader's name, which was Ruqayyah. Our project was the game of Jeopardy, and by using HTML, CSS, and PHP, we were able to create an online version of the classic game of Jeopardy. This game allows players to enter their name as well as answer questions based on 5 different categories. The points will then be added up as they answer each question correctly. After ending the game, the player can then return to the home screen to see if they've gained enough points to be featured as one of the top 5 players on the leaderboard. Our team members include Ruqayyah, who was the project leader as well as the programmer, Abiel, who was the programmer as well as the designer, Bliena, who was the tester and presenter, Nevaeh, who was the tester and presenter, and Keidra, who was also the tester and presenter. Our game. Welcome to our interactive Jeopardy game, which brings the game of Jeopardy, a TV show we all know and love, into the comfort of your own home. When starting the game, you are greeted with our interface asking you to input your name to start the game. Your name will also be documented to be placed onto the leaderboard later after you compete against others. Our Jeopardy allows you to test your knowledge in 5 different categories, which include science, literature, history, technology, and lastly, random trivia. Start by deciding which category you want and how much money you want to play for. Then you'll be presented with a question, but answer quick or you'll lose money. Objectives. We had several objectives that helped shape the game into what is now presented to you today, some of which include choose categories, as well as develop lists of questions for each of the segments. Create a timer for the game so too much time isn't spent on one question alone. Develop a leaderboard to compete against others. Our leaderboard remembers the scores of the players for about 30 days. Create a PHP form that processes user inputs and modifies the score of the user. And lastly, develop a UI that allows the user to input their name for future reference. User interface design. The design was inspired by the Jeopardy board from the game show, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner. We then decided to have a main page where the user can register their name, as well as view the top scores from the last players who have previously played the game before. Then there would be a game board with all of the categories and questions. There would also be a button to end the game prematurely if the user chooses to do so. For the question page, we chose to have multiple choice questions instead of text inputs, so we wouldn't have to consider all potential acceptable answers. The final page, when the user ends the game or answers all the questions, would display their name and score, and a link to the main page so they can play again if they choose to do so. And to our right, you can see all of the user interfaces that we have included in our Jeopardy game.
3 programming languages for this project: HTML, CSS, and PHP. We have a total of 6 PHP files that make up the UML class diagram. For the user pages, we have index.php that has the user registration and then the leaderboard, which shows which players are in the lead. Game.php has the table of categories and questions. Question.php has question and answer choices and updates to indicate the right or wrong answer or if you ran out of time. End.php is triggered by the user or by the end of the game. It displays the user's names and the points. It also updates the leaderboard cookie. The backend pages, the first one is common.php, which contains methods for decoding and encoding cookies, resetting cookie sessions, updating the leaderboard, and displaying the message after each question. Questions_answers.php, this is the arrays hosting questions and answers. So the first PHP document is index.php. This file has the basic structure of the game. So when you first pull up the site, users are able to enter their name and start playing. On this page, you can also see the top 5 players from the past 30 days and the number of points that they won. Game.php has the main UI for this game. This is where you'll see the classic Jeopardy setup, where it has the blue background, it has all the categories, and then the dollar amount for each question. Players can choose a question based on the category and based on money. And at any point in the game, players can choose to end the game by clicking the button at the bottom of the page.
Over in this slide, we can see question.php. Over on the right, we can see question.php. Inside of this file, what we do is we determine the question that was chosen. So out of the entire board that we've shown in the demo, you can see whichever question that you want, and then it'll see that, and then it will also match the answer that the person had chosen with the correct answer, of which it will then assert the certain amount of points associated with that answer back to the player. So if they get it correct, then it should go up, else it would be incorrect, and then it will run for the incorrect, of which it will subtract points from that. Over in question answers, here what we focus on more is based on the actual answers and the questions. Over here, we see that the questions are listed out as well as the answers for each individual question. They're sorted out question per category, as you can see over to the right. You can see the category for literature as well as sciences going each by each. There's an answer for every single question as well as the categories that are listed out. Obviously, every question has multiple choice answers, and so for each question, there's 4 answers, which that can be seen. If you look over to the right, you will see common.php. In here, we ask the players for their name. We ask for the player's name at the start of the game, as well as later on near the end of the game for the leaderboards. This way, we can save the players' scores as well as their names for into the cookies, so that way they can be pulled up again after the player's done playing. So that way their scores can be saved, and the way that it's set up, actually inside of our project, is it can be saved up to 30 days. And over here, right, we can see end.php. The way that this file works is that it goes through the previous sessions and the collected data from our players, and it compares from common.php to the character's previous sessions. So if it's a previously reoccurring character, it'll go through the previous session, and it'll be able to view them on the leaderboard as compared to their previous attempts. But if we're talking about like a newer player, well, then this would essentially just be a fresh start for them, because they wouldn't have any previous cookies saved to pull from. And for where we place them on the leaderboards, this is where we really do it. So again, we still pull from common.php, and the way that it works is it goes through the leaderboard and it compares the players' scores, and then it places the players where they belong into that. So third place goes in between second and fourth, obviously. The page will also use HTML and a goodbye text, which is obviously why end.php goodbye text, as well as also a play again option, of which you can also just reload the web page, which is just an option too as well. Or you could just try to like put it into like a brand new server after you're already done playing, which is also an option.
When you come to the site, you are greeted with the login section on the left side and then the leaderboard on the right side. This leaderboard is specific to each browser. because it's stored using a cookie which is connected to the browser. And so, for instance, I'm in this incognito tab, and these are the last 4 players in the last 30 days and their scores. This leaderboard only shows the top 5 players, and only 4 people have played, which is why all of them are showing. If, say, 13 people have played in the last 30 days, then this leaderboard would reflect to show only the top 5 scores and player names. But this is specific to each browser. So switching to a different browser or to a different Google account will show you a different leaderboard. On the left-hand side, we can go ahead and enter our name and press Start Game. And this takes us to the game.php file, which has all the categories and all the questions. So we have 6 categories and 5 questions per category. In the top left, we have the name of the player, we have the points in the center, and then we have an end game button on the right-hand side so that the user can end the game at any point before finishing all the questions. Once you answer all the questions, the game also ends automatically. So let's go ahead and pick a question. Let's say Science 100. On the top, we have a timer. It's a visual timer that counts for 10 seconds. You can go ahead and answer a question, and it will tell you if your answer is correct, the amount of points that you earned, and give you an option to return to the board. Let's go ahead and pick Literature 200. So, who wrote The Color Purple? This is Alice Walker. We're going to press Enter. Again, it will show you if your answer is correct and the amount of points that you earned. And you can see that the points are accumulating at the top here. So this is the 100 plus 200 points that we just earned. Let's go for History 300. Who was the leader of the Soviet Union during World War II? Maybe I'm thinking about this and I can't answer before the timer runs out. Then this will automatically switch and tell me, sorry, you ran out of time and that you lost the points for that question. So if you return to the board, you can see we are back to 0 because we lost 300 points and we only had 300 points before. Let's go for Literature 300 to gain back our points. What is the opening line of Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities? This is, it was the best of times. I'm going to hit enter. Your answer is correct. And so we have re-earned our 300 points. And as you can see, once you return to the board, you are not able to answer the questions that you already previously answered. And so you only have the remaining questions on the board to pick from. Let's go for Technology 100. What does the acronym CPU stand for? This is the Central Processing Unit, but let's pick a wrong answer. Central Power Unit. If we click Enter, it tells us that our answer is wrong and the amount of points that we lost. And if we turn to the board, we can see that we have indeed lost 100 points. Let's go for random trivia, maybe 500. And what year did the Titanic sink? Let's say 1912. Answer is correct, and so we have earned 700 points. And let's do one more. Now I'm at 1,100 points and maybe I'm tired of playing and so I want to end the game, which is press end game in the top right here. You get a message thanking you for playing, your name and your final score, and then this play again button redirects you to the main page where you can see the updated leaderboard, and you can see that we are now in 3rd place at 1,100 points.
While developing our game, we were faced with a couple bugs. For starters, there was an undefined array key warning showing when the code was run locally. However, when it was uploaded to the COD server, the warning did not show. To resolve this issue, we printed the arrays being accessed in that method and realized that the explode method was creating an extra entry that was empty, thus causing the index error. There was another issue where the game did not realize that a question had previously been answered, allowing users to answer the same question over and over again. This resulted in an inaccurate score. There was a logic issue where the points weren't being deducted, so we amended the points logic. If we were given more time, we would have liked to implement multiple change and further advancements to our code. For instance, One idea that we had that we couldn't exactly implement was the competitive mode, where multiple players would have been able to go head-to-head, similar to a more realistic Jeopardy playing style. Another issue was the idea to add in the actual video elements from the game, so that as the game was played, the video and dialogue coming from the screen would add more immersion to the players. A couple examples as to how we would implement that are: our team decided to use the Scrum methodology to keep track of our progress and our goals. We did so by meeting twice a week through WebEx or Discord to conduct our sprint meetings. In these meetings, we utilized Jira to track our goals and monitor our progress. During these meetings, the team discussed the selection of features to be prioritized at that time and completed in the time frame. After these meetings, we held sprint reviews, where we conducted the current state of our game features, followed by feedback from our product owners. The bulk of this process was facilitated by our Scrum Master, Ruqayyah. In between these sprint meetings, daily stand-up meetings were conducted via Discord, during which the team reviewed progress achieved and outlined objectives reflected on Jira for the period leading to the following daily stand-up meeting. This iterative cycle of planning, development, review, and enhancement was continuously executed until the Jeopardy game was deemed fully developed and aligned with our predetermined expectations.
Some of the benefits I found of using the Scrum methodology include having a backlog that keeps track of extra features so we can pull into a sprint if we have time to implement it. As mentioned, there were a number of extra features that we wanted to include but didn't have time to do so, and so we were able to track those in the backlog. Using the pointing system in order to estimate how much effort is required to complete all aspects of the project. This was especially useful since we had a very short amount of time in which to complete and submit this project, and so the pointing system helped us figure out what was feasible in the time frame that we had. And attending meetings and updating on Discord to discuss the project progress and ensure our ability to complete the project in time.
Okay, Scrum methodology is a way that we can both use and save our time and manage it well. In the scope of this project, the main issue that we had was how much we wanted to accomplish and how little time. Scrum definitely helped with that the most. The way that we set it up was, if you look over to the right, you're going to see that the first thing we have is choose our project. That was pretty much the first thing we did beforehand, but on the first day, it's always good to have something to cross off. And since we already knew that we had to do Scrum and we had to do the Jira board again, we decided to have something we could cross off. From there, the way that we set it up was we constantly talked about it first, like how you're supposed to do in Scrum, essentially plan out what you want to do, and then try to divide up the work into a more fair and equal way so the project can be done reasonably. The way that we divided up wasn't essentially the number of things that a person could do, but essentially what was more inside of their scope. Because again, time was one of the bigger constraints that we had here, so we tried to make it so that way if someone was trying to do something that they were very capable in, they would definitely try to primarily focus in that instead of just forcing someone to do everything all at once, or especially in something that they had absolutely no awareness of, so that way, at least, again, in the scope and the time of the project, it could be more doable. From there, I can say that my own portion was more front-ended coding. What I did is, if you look at our Jeopardy project, if you look at something and you're able to recognize it, pretty much anything you can see that's front-ended by design, I at least did some portion of it. I at least helped in some way in the implementation of that code. I can tell you for a fact, all of the multiple choice questions and answers that are on there definitely came from me, which is why most of them are easy because they aren't the most important part of the project that I was trying to focus on. But then again, I did add them all in. I will say though that the computer science questions are definitely the hardest ones, and if you're going to play our game, you should definitely go through those. And if you can't get a perfect score, I don't know what to tell you. That's kind of on you, man. From there, the last thing I really want to discuss is how we held our meetings and how we were able to talk to each other. Although we did primarily focus on Discord, both through chatting through each other and also holding through call meetings, we also did come face to face, and we also did do some coding together as a large group. Although the times weren't always perfect, so we mainly talked on Discord, pushed through GitHub, talked about what we improved, what we need to improve, all within the scope of our project, which definitely helped us manage our time and use it more efficiently.
Some of the main benefits I have noticed when using the Scrum method. By utilizing this method, we were able to effectively plan out everything and ensure that everything was completed in time. By communicating on Discord and updating our gyro board, we were able to work together and stay on task. Within our meetings, we were able to discuss how we want things to look, as well as help each other and work through different errors and problems we may have run into along the way.
The Scrum methodology gives you a better idea of the steps needed to finish the project from beginning to end. You never have to worry about how far along a certain task is or if another teammate has finished their part. It's an easy reference point for everybody to use. If there's ever a time that you realize that more steps are needed, it's easy to go in and add an additional task to the overall project.
Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our game as much as we do.